Intrinsic Perennial Gardens was established as a retail garden center by my dad, Laiush, in the fall of 1978 when I was 10 years old. In 1991, we began growing perennials for the wholesale trade. Today, we continue to lead the industry with our plant selection and breeding. Enjoy this seasonal look. So today we are looking at one of our minimum heat greenhouses. The greenhouse primarily has items that are being potted in early spring for specific jobs or items that we are out of. So in this case we have a lot of 4.5-inch quart material for jobs throughout the Midwest. Some are going to Michigan, some are going to Iowa. In this case, it's mostly 4.5-inch deep quart material. We'll have a second greenhouse that we will be filling as well with primarily 1 gallon material. Once April rolls around, we start to put the plants outside. We're going to look at some seeding and some seeds that are germinating in the greenhouse. These seeds are a wide range of items, things for either our breeding program or production or for trial purposes. So sometimes we will sow a 4.5-inch pot of seed in order to just kind of evaluate or see a new plant or to bring in a new plant for breeding purposes. Most of our seeding is done in open flats, either in rows or broadcast, and then the seedlings get pricked into plugs from there. So the individual seedlings get taken out of the seed tray and put into plugs for potting at a later date. We are sticking unrooted cuttings from Columbia today. It's March 10th. 2021, and we're going to have a look at the process from unboxing and unbagging to sticking and labeling and watering an unrooted cutting from, in this case, Darwin Perennials in Columbia. Today we are sticking 3,000 tissue culture plantlets from Vitro Westland in Holland. They arrived at 11 o'clock and we should have 3,000 done by 3 o'clock, hopefully. We are sticking GM Flames of Passion from Future Plants, GM Mai Tai, and Penstemon Pocahontas. 1,000 of each today. So the plantlets come in a little jar of agar. Then we take them. Once the plantlets are stuck in soil, planted in soil, we mist them and put a white propagation dome over the top to keep humidity around 100%. Let's have a look. Ta-da! Each tray has 50 babies, and you can see how many we have done today. We are looking at the potting machine today. This is basically an old salt spreader that we have converted. We drop the soil into the salt spreader or the machine. The machine dumps it onto a belt, a conveyor belt, and the pots get filled, and we take the pots off onto a trailer, and we are potting plugs into either 4.5 inch or 1 gallon pots. So once we have the pots filled in the barn on the trailer, they get planted with plugs, and the plugs get brought out to the field, and we put them down in the landscape fabric in nice straight rows and grow the plants on for 8 to 10 weeks on average. Today we are happy to have finished loading our custom grow project for the Greater Des Moines Botanic Gardens next door garden. It's the Robert D. Ray Asian Garden. It's a new garden being installed this month, May 2021. And tomorrow the semi containing 11,000 plants will be delivered to the site for installation. This is a project we started in the fall of 2019, custom growing for the current install. We were hoping to install it and ship it last year, 2020, but delays happen. And that is a normal part of growing and selling plants to gardens and public gardens. But we are happy to have the 11,000 plants loaded, and tomorrow they will be in Iowa for installation. Today we are looking at our breeding and selecting process here at Intrinsic Perennial Gardens. So we're looking at 3 different plants today. The first one is a Shasta daisy. So what we do is we line them up in a row. Sometimes we'll line them up by size, sometimes we'll line them up by color or type. And then after we do that, we kind of go to each plant and look at it individually compared to the group. And we'll decide whether we want to keep the plant, propagate the plant, or get rid of the plant. I call it roguing. So these are the Shasta daisies we're looking at today. We will be pulling more out later today. And then, so after the Shasta daisies, we're going to come look at the scabiosas. We have scabiosas that are pink and blue, and we have them separated by color. And then we will separate them by size and vigor. These are also our seed source. So we will be collecting seed from the best ones and growing those on for a 2022 crop. And then behind me is a pile of plants that we have already decided are not the best plants. We've compared them to our other Amsonias. These are blue stars. The Amsonias we've selected are mostly named for baseball. So we have a 7th inning stretch and a shortstop and a few other baseball names like bases loaded. But these are the ones we've decided are not better or different or worth propagating and evaluating in the future. Today we're looking at one of our dedicated hoop houses or cold frames. This one happens to have all carex, which are both native and non-native sedges. And we are growing more and more carex, still primarily in 1 gallon containers, but more and more in quarts and more in a deep 50 plug for growing and installing direct into a landscape job. But gives you kind of a variety of textures and colors and sizes is the kind of main attributes of carex, is their texture, their different color greens, different color blues, and then some variegated ones as well. So custom grows are becoming more and more a part of our business, and we're looking at one today for Roy Diblick design, and it's going to the Argonne National Laboratory. They're building the biggest computer in the world, and Roy has designed the gardens, and we're growing some of the plants for those gardens. So we have a big block of Cecillaria Greenleaf's hybrid, quite a few of our introductions. We have one of our Amsonias, our American Gold Rush Rudbeckia, which is 2020 AAS winner. Lots of Calamintha, our Vernonia Southern Cross, which will be budding and blooming soon, and a wide variety of other items that Roy has spec'd. The great thing about custom grows is you're pretty much guaranteed a sale, and all that work is going to an actual order. It's not on spec, and the timing can be perfect for both you and the client if things are done well and done with some time in advance. So it really works out well for everybody. So today we're looking at our shade areas, and these are all hostas. We have 3 dedicated hosta areas, almost 4 30 by 100 areas. We're growing around 50 varieties of hostas, and on the premises we probably have 100 plus varieties of hostas, but we're primarily either planting a root in the spring or a plug in July for overwintering and spring sales. And they really do look nice together, especially with all the variety, different colors, the blues, the variegated, the golds. I still love quite a few of them. So today we're looking at the grass garden, and it really starts to come into its own in July. About half or more of the items and the big items in this garden are warm season grasses. We also do an ornamental grass day every year here at Intrinsic Perennial Gardens. It's typically mid to late September. So if you're interested, please check that out on our website. So we have one of each of our grasses that we sell and list in our catalog in this garden. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's one plant, but it kind of gives an idea to a landscape company or a retail garden center or a customer what the plants are going to look like when they mature. And we'll see some of those individual items coming up. Andropogon Girardii Blackhawks. This is one of my best plants and one of my best introductions and one of my best grasses. This plant has near black to purple fall color. It grows about 5 feet tall. It's a big blue stem. Big blue stem used to cover about half of the United States. And it's a great full sun grass if you're looking for something tall. Festuca Cool as Ice is one of our hybrid fescues. This has blue foliage in a low mound. It's also more adaptable in the Midwest type conditions and heavier soil type conditions. This one flowers in May, June, and then you kind of have a tan flower head, seed head in June, July. Because it's more adaptable, it's longer lived, it's more drought tolerant. It's a really good blue fescue. Panicum Prairie Dog is kind of an improved heavy metal switchgrass. It's got much cleaner, bluer foliage, real nice upright habit, typically around 4 plus to 5 feet tall. It's also got a pretty substantial flower, so about the top third of the plant is flowering and flowers. Beautiful structure in the garden, beautiful color in the garden, definitely an up-and-coming switchgrass. Millennia Dutch Dreamer grows about 6 to 7 feet tall depending on site. It has this heavier flower arching stem and beautiful yellow fall color. Today we're looking at the dry shade garden end of things at Intrinsic Perennial Gardens, and the Carex are really stealing the show. We have Carex speciosa on that end blending into Carex eburnia under the silver maples, which are shallow rooted and stealing lots of moisture. Then we have Carex moroi temnolepsis, which is an extra long and thin blade, either green or variegated. Then we blend into Carex montana, and then behind me even more Siderostrica Silver Springs and Carex flacca, which we might dig out eventually, but in the dry shade it's quite well behaved here. Anyway, it's a nice little display garden showing things that are tolerating dry shade. Some of my favorite plants like Aster divaricatus and Aster macrophyllus. If they're not in here, they will be in here soon. So today we are looking at one of our seedling houses. We have two, and we will be building a third seedling house. We tend to use one at a time, and they are loosely alphabetized from A to Z. So as seeds germinate in our mist house or in our heated greenhouse, we bring them out to this minimum heat house and grow them on for either pricking into plugs or planting into plugs, or rarely planting into pots. And so we have a wide variety of seedlings in here, from andropogons and asters to zizias and veronicas on this end. About a third of this seed house is for R&D purposes and for breeding purposes. So we're sowing open pollinated seed mixes and looking for hybrids and hybrid vigor and new forms, new colors, new selections. So currently we have sedum sod that came from Intrinsic Landscaping. We're kind of babysitting in our first minimum heat house. Normally those are reserved for items that we are sold out of in the fall, and we go into spring with zero on the ground, and or plants that are sold for orders. And same with this house. It kind of doubles as a seedling house and also a minimum heat house. And then we will be building a dedicated seedling house that will not have heat in it coming this fall. So in front of me is my Molinia Cordoba gate, and it's a green gate. It was planted after I heard Pete Udov talk at the Lurie Garden about how gardens typically have walls and gates, and I did not have a gate on my garden yet. So I came back and I planted 3 Molinias as a green gate. And then he was able to come visit a few days later, which made it all the better. So you guys have great timing today. It's August. The Liatris ligulostylus is blooming, and the butterflies are nectaring and probably breeding and feeding. So we're looking at Liatris ligulostylus meadow blazing star, and also known as Rocky Mountain blazing star. This plant has a natural pheromone or chemical in the flower that attracts the monarchs to nectar and to breed or to bring the male monarchs especially. But Sonia's garden has a plethora of them. I planted 6 to begin with, and now we have quite a bit of reseeding going on. But this was designed and named for my sister Sonia. It has a nice green fence when you walk in of Molinia Cordoba and Panicum Northwind and Panicum Prairie Dog And then we used to have Millennia Paul Peterson in the beginning. And then after you get through Sonia's garden, you walk through a wall of taxodium, the bald cypress, and you'll step into Trudy's garden. And then after Trudy's garden, we have Lou's garden. Trudy's my mom, Lou was my dad. So have a look around. So it's 2021 this year, but next year for 2022 is Little Blue Stem is Plant of the Year for the Perennial Plant Association. And it's seeded into this Rudbeckia American Gold Rush, which is a really cool combination and something you typically wouldn't plant like this, but I think it works well together, and it certainly works well in this site. In case you didn't know, plants are the new mulch, and this is a garden that shows that off well. We have a fair amount of carex and Amsonias and Baptisias and other short grasses covering the ground here. This is Trudy's garden, named for my mom. We have two beautiful carpinus trees in the center, edged on one end with the taxodium bald cypress hedge, and then on the other end a beautiful iron gate that my dad got on a job. Looking good here in August. Silphium, prairie dock, lots of nice grasses. Deshampsia tardiflora, one of my favorites, is putting on quite a show here. It's very dainty and fine textured, but it gives lots of airiness to the garden. So we're looking at Lou's garden, which needs a little cleanup, but it's got a heart-shaped boxwood hedge, which is really maturing nicely. And a few of our previous dogs, Morgan and Pumpkin, and some of my great Amsonia introductions, including Halfway to Arkansas and Silphium, the Holy Grail, our golden cup plant, and the lovers. So we do a lot of seed collecting and seed cleaning here at Intrinsic, and today we're going to do a little demonstration with an agastache. So initially we dump the seed after it's been dried for a short amount of time onto a screen. We run it through the screen. Either it falls through the screen or we manually kind of push it through and work it through the screen. Once it falls through the first screen, sometimes we'll screen it again in a smaller size screen, and or even potentially a third screen, depending on how big the seed heads are, how dry they are, how big the seed is, and how many screens we require to use. So after it falls onto the table, we will sweep it into a tray and dump it into a bag and label it. And then it goes into the refrigerator for sowing at a later date, or sometimes we will clean it and take it to sow right away. So today we're looking at both grass production and 3-gallon production. The majority of our 3-gallon production is ornamental grasses, and then kind of tied into that 3-gallon production is both R&D, research and development of new varieties, and production of our plants that we're selling. So we have quite a mix of ornamental grasses here. We do an ornamental grass day every year in September, right when the grasses are peaking and looking great. So you'll see a wide variety out here. We'll see lots of pennisetums, lots of big blue stems. Panicums are blooming well right now. Also miscanthus. So I'm standing next to one of my R&D varieties. This is kind of a second generation improvement on Pennisetum redhead. Behind me to the left, I have Pennisetum Love and Rockets that came out last year. That's a short red variety, similar to Hamlin, but with a dark red flower. We also have our new Pennisetum Pure Energy, which is a gold foliaged Pennisetum, and then the more reddish ginger colored flower. Thank you for watching the video tour. If you wish to learn more about Intrinsic, please visit in person. We have more to share with you now and in the future.